What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a look at the new Final Fantasy expansion. Now, this is where it might get a little bit confusing. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, when I say the new Final Fantasy TCG expansion, I am not referring to Soldier's Return. You see, Soldier's Return is the new one, which is going to be coming out in March. No, ladies and gentlemen, I am in fact referring to Opus XII Crystal Awakening, which has just been announced by the lovely folks over at Square Enix, and I thought, you know what? We should probably have a little bit of a chat about this. One of my goals this year in 2020 is to cover the Final Fantasy TCG a little bit more extensively. And we've done a couple videos lately, and that's lovely. I'd like to do quite a few more. And certainly the announcement of a new expansion, that seems like the kind of thing we should be talking about. Now, we have some moderately generic information. I mean, the most important point straight off the bat, it's releasing on the 17th of July, 2020. Now, that is a to-be-confirmed date because you don't want to give really strict dates 6 months in advance. And let's be clear here, we are 6 months in advance. We're sitting here on the 23rd of January. This release date is the 17th of July. We are very much, okay, just a tiny shade under 6 months in advance. So let's keep it a little bit loose there. But we now have news. It means we can judge it a little bit. We can plan for the expenditure of a new expansion, and we can just start getting a little bit hyped. We know that there are going to be 128 normal cards and 150 premium cards. Remember that when you get a Final Fantasy TCG set, every card can appear as a regular or as a holo. Well, that would make 128 normal cards and 128 premium cards. But then we also have 22 cards which can appear as full art, like that beautiful full art I showed you the other day. The Cindy promo you get from the Opus XI pre-releases. So 128 plus 22 brings us up to exactly 150. Well, that's rather lovely. That makes it just a tiny bit smaller than Opus XI, which is set to have 130 cards, 2 more, and 160 premium cards, which is 10 more. But there's only 20 full art cards apparently, so yay, we get more of those, life is good, etc. But you see, with a new set often comes new mechanics, and there is what looks to be at least a very, very exciting new mechanic coming along in Opus XII. Fords with multiple elements. Now, we're only actually given one example, unfortunately. It's Shantoto. How lovely! Now, as is the case with so many of these reveals that Final Fantasy do, we have sample cards that show us the artwork and the typing, but do not actually show us any of the abilities, CP, power, all of that, boo, etc. Now, what we can see is that it is a dual type, Earth and Lightning. And this shouldn't terribly surprise you. We go dual type. That's what trading card games do. Pokemon have gone dual type a number of times, most recently back in Steam Siege for anyone that follows that. Take a look at this lovely Volcanion as an example. And though I'm a little bit lapsed on that game generally, we have seen that the Dragon Ball Super trading card game has also gone dual type for its leaders a little while ago. I suppose it was only a matter of time before Final Fantasy did as well. Now, it's worth noting that it is only Fords that are going dual type. Now, it doesn't actually say dual type. The announcement specifically refers to Fords, so we know we're not getting backups. And the announcement specifically refers to multiple elements. We have got one example, that is Shantoto, who sits there as an Earth/Lightning. Now, the interesting thing here is if you want to summon one of those Fords, if you want to get them onto the field, you need to generate 1 CP of each element they possess. So if you want to summon Shantoto, you are going to have to pay whatever the cost is, but that must include at least one Earth and at least one Lightning. Seems like they're trying to make us play dual-type decks. And really trying to push us into this. Of course, one of the things that's going to be really exciting for me to see, tri-colour? Quad-colour? Are these actually going to be limited? Because most of the time, most card games use the phrasing dual-type. But they've specifically said multiple elements. So even if all of the dual types in Opus XII are in fact just dual type, maybe they're leaving a door open for the future to go, you know what? Have one of these as well. And maybe they'll only be dual type in Opus 12, but maybe in Opus 13 or 14 or 15, we get forward with 3 or 4 types, forcing us to play an ever more elaborate range of backups. I mean, I'm a sucker for new mechanics, right? But this sounds like an awful lot of fun. The other thing that really appeals to me is that in the announcement they specifically say they have stronger abilities and powers than regular forwards. Now, they also say they'll bring a fresh environment and strategic aspect, but we don't really know what that means, and that's the case with every game, and it doesn't tell us very much. But specifically telling us they have stronger abilities and powers than regular forwards, that is extremely interesting to me. How much more powerful are they? We have absolutely no idea. Boo! I suppose it gives us something to look forward to finding out though, doesn't it? Now, the other thing we see, which is a little bit of a change from previous sets, is that they're actually bringing in full art reprints of old cards. So we've got the Opus 1 Shantoto, the Opus 4 Lock, and the Opus 6 Minwu, all of which are being printed as full art cards in Opus 12. Now, to be fair, the Minwu and the Lock don't see a huge amount of play, but the Shantoto really does. Now, I know it's not the best judge, but some of the easiest information to find here is if you go on ffdex.com and just have a quick look at the rough popularity of cards. Now, these are user submitted, they're not all perfect, but if we have just a quick look anyway, the Opus 1 Shantoto is like the 12th most popular card. It appears in 17% of the decks. It's also therefore retained quite a lot of value. You know what that means? Yeah, it does mean that the value of the Opus 1 Shantoto might end up falling a bit, which is, it's a little bit sad, unfortunately. I mean, I say that, it's not that sad if you don't have Shantoto, but it really is sad if you've got a whole bunch set aside, hoping to sell them later on. I mean, Shantoto is awkward, right? But it's a 7-cost Earth, and if it's on the field, it gains the element of fire, ice, wind, earth, lightning, and water. And when it enters the field, remove all the 4s from the game. It's a pretty impactful card. It is one of the very best cards in the game, so that's a thing. Now, if you're worried about the box artwork, I believe that is Ash, one of the main protagonists from Final Fantasy XII. Obviously, Opus 11 is leaning pretty hard into Final Fantasy VII, which shouldn't surprise you with the whole Final Fantasy VII remake coming out. Well, it was going to be just before the set, it's now going to be just after the set, but either way, around about the same time. So apparently, Final Fantasy XII coming in here as well. Given that that was released on the Switch not too long ago, it is one of the ones you would imagine that they would be pushing a little bit, so why not, ladies and gentlemen? Why not? They've also shown us these 3 cards, but it really doesn't tell us much at all. Hey, look, there's some artwork, but there's nothing really we can glean from them. Now, we've also been given just a list of illustrations, people that are going to be coming in showing some illustrations, which does give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of games which are going to be featured. Final Fantasy XI pops up a couple times. Final Fantasy XII is on there. And it is worth noting that for the very first time, we are going to get cards from Final Fantasy Explorers. Took 12 opuses, but we finally made it, ladies and gentlemen. Final Fantasy Explorers made it in. For those of you that may be unaware, according to Wikipedia, it is an action role-playing video game for the Nintendo 3DS. It features character job-orientated combat against classic Final Fantasy monsters and summons. Came out in Japan in 2014 and North America and Europe in 2016. So, less of a mainline RPG and more of a going on quests killing stuff kind of thing. Sounds like fun. I mean, I'm not a Final Fantasy Explorers fan. I've never played it. But, you know, maybe this is my chance, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe this is my chance. So there we go. There's a new expansion coming out. We know a bunch of information, but by far the most exciting thing, dual-type Fords! Except, and I want to stress this one more time, the announcement never says dual type, it says multiple elements. Come on, 3 or 4 element Fords. I mean, they're going to be janky and awkward to use, but hopefully their power will reflect that. I want to know what you think about this set, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know all your thoughts, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, where we're going to talk some Final Fantasy and a whole bunch of other games. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can, well, support the channel, get some weekly bonus podcasts, many of which are live now, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.